250 kilometers away, so it still takes time to go there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh.
Ella, selamat
2 minutes
siang.
to go.
Siang Pak Herman, siang Pak
Siang,
Salman.
Siang Ibu, apa kabar Bu?
Sehat-sehat,
Mela,
alhamdulillah.
Pak Dubes, Bu Melani tambah sibuk dengan hotel. Terus nambah hotelnya soalnya.
Alhamdulillah.
Baru buka di Jakarta.
Oke.
Tamrin.
Jambulu ya
Kapan?
Bu ya?
Iya, main lah
Oke.
Pak. Kalau lagi pulang ke Jakarta ya.
Oke. Di mana Bu Jambulu di
belakang
Jakarta?
Tamrin, dekat Sarinah.
Oh really? Oh
Iya.
very
Very strategic location.
Yes, dekat dengan Kemlu juga.
Nah, cocok udah Pak itu.
Saya sudah nginep yang di Jogja Bu. Yeah.
Aduh, thank you Pak Dubes, terima kasih.
Yes. Another 1 minute. Ibu Nia, I didn't see Ibu Nia yet. Mana ya?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you for coming to this webinar. Today's webinar is the second serial webinar event organized by Indonesian Mission in South Africa. The topic of this webinar is the cause of COVID-19 for global tourism, how Indonesia and South Africa are responding. We do hope that we will produce such a fruitful discussion by presenting such an excellent speakers as well as the follow-up afterwards. According to our database, we have more than 300 people registered to this webinar, coming from various backgrounds, including tourism, government, and students. Before we start our event, please allow me to present you a video from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Industry of the Republic of Indonesia. The video will shortly elaborate the effort of Indonesia to improve traveler safety and comfort during the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the video. Thank you. Sorry, a little bit technical problem. We got internet connection problem. So let's get back to our business. It is an honor for us to have a moderator that is also known for her active involvement in tourism sector, Valerina Daniels. Valerina Daniel is a Miss Jakarta years of 1999 and Miss Asian in 2005. She is the news anchor at Berita Satu News Channel, SCTV, and Metro TV Indonesia. She's also the former advisor to Indonesian Minister of Tourism for Sustainable Tourism Development from 2018-2019. As advisor to the minister, Carolina led the acceleration team for sustainable tourism development after being certified as assessor by Global Sustainable Tourism Council. Moreover, since 2005, Carolina has also been assigned by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia as the Environment Ambassador. She has published a series of environmental books to promote the issues of conservation, climate change, and sustainable living. Carolina graduated from Monash University, Australia, majoring Master of Communication and Media Studies. She is also the awardee of Australian Leadership Award, or ALA, in 2010. She earned her Bachelor of International Relations from University of Indonesia and was an exchange student for the FS program to the United States of America. Because of her dedication as the Environment Ambassador and journalist, Carolina received the Indonesia Green Award in 2011 and the Australian Alumni Award for Communication and Journalism in 2011 also. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to invite Carolina to lead our discussion. Carolina, the time is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaffer, for the wonderful introduction. I hope everybody can hear me clearly at the moment. Good morning, South Africa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Indonesia.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, this is great. So everybody can hear me clearly. But first of all, I would like to also greet our friends in South Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is my first time of saying it. Sani Bonani.
Sani Bonani. Good morning.
Good morning. Selamat pagi. Thank you for replying. Hallo, hoe gaan dit? Dumela.
Dumela. Dat gaan goed.
That means how are you in South African.
Right.
Apa kabar in bahasa Indonesia? I hope everybody is doing well today. I am Valina Daniel, and I am very honored to be your moderator today for today's webinar economic series episode 2, the cost of COVID-19 for global tourism, how Indonesia and South Africa are responding. First of all, allow me to greet our dignitaries. His Excellency Ambassador Salman Al-Farisi, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to the Republic of South Africa, accredited to the Republic of Botswana, the Kingdom of Eswatini, and the Kingdom of Lesotho. Good afternoon, Ambassador Salman.
Good afternoon, Ibu Valeria.
Apa kabar, Pak?
Alhamdulillah, fine, Ibu. How are you, Ibu?
I'm fine as well. Thank you, Pak, for allowing me to join this webinar. And also, I would like to greet Honorable Muhammad Siraj Parwito, Consul General of the Republic of Indonesia in Cape Town. Good afternoon, Pak Muhammad.
Selamat sore, Ibu.
Selamat sore, Pak. Thank you for joining us today. I would also like to greet our speakers, Mr. Sisa Ensona, the Chief Executive Officer of South African Tourism. Good afternoon, Mr. Sisa Ensona.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
Thank you for replying. And then I would also like to greet Mr. Raden Sigit Wicaksono, the Director of Tourism Marketing for East, South, and Tourism Central Asia region, and Acting Director of Tourism Marketing for Europe, Middle East, America, and African region, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia. Selamat sore, Pak Sigit.
Oh my God.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak. Nanti akan bergabung bersama kami sebagai salah satu pembicara. And then I would also like to greet Mr. Herman Rukmanadi, the owner and managing director of Baratur Bandung, Indonesia. Good afternoon, Pak.
Selamat sore. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I hope you're well as well, ya Pak. Karena di sana, I've heard that you say that it's now cooler than usual.
Yeah, it is very cold, but it's still nice, Bandung. Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully our discussion will be warm.
Yeah, it can be warm.
Okay, thank you, Pak Herman. Now I would also like to greet Mrs. Angela Wood, the General Manager for Sales and Marketing at Thompson's Holiday. Good afternoon, Miss Angela Wood.
Good morning from South Africa.
Oh, sorry, yeah, good morning, Danki, for replying my greetings. And then also, I would also like to greet distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Tourism is one of the hardest industries affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So the UN World Tourism Organization has stated that around 120 million jobs and tourism are at risk globally. And this year, the number of international tourists could fall to 60 to 80%. Based on the data that we receive, around 90,000 jobs in tourism industry are predicted to be lost in South Africa alone in 6 months. And while the Cape Town tourism stated that under the lockdown condition, 83% tourism business could not survive. So what about Indonesia? So the first quarter in 2020 showed a decline by 30% in international tourism arrival and predicted to be even further down until the end of this year. So therefore, it is very important for countries like Indonesia and South Africa to develop the best tourism policy to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So today, we hope that we could discuss, identify problems, and learn the way out from each other on how to navigate the new normal era. To officially begin our webinar, now I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Salman Al Farisi, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to the Republic of South Africa, accredited to the Republic of Botswana, the Kingdom of Eswatini, and the Kingdom of Lesotho to deliver his remarks. To Ambassador Salman, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Valeria. Good morning for colleagues in South Africa, and good afternoon for those in Indonesia. I would like to say thank you for all of you for making your time to get together with us today. Indeed, those of you are also participated in the first webinar last month. This is the second series of our webinar, and hopefully in the next webinar will take place with a different topic indeed. It is a pleasure for me to join all of you in this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, with the uncertainty of our traveling, as already mentioned by Ibu Valeria, no one knows how quickly tourism and business travel will recover, whether we will still fly as much, and what the travel experience will look like once new health security measures are in place. Taking the snapshot of tourism losses is a very difficult right now, as the data changes very quickly. It is if the pandemic continue for several more months, the World Travel and Tourism Council, the trade group representing major global travel companies, projects a global loss of 75 million jobs and 2.1 trillion US dollar in revenue. To look beyond this fear and help us think about how the pandemic will permanently change the way we travel, today we will ask for prominent officials and experts to look into their projection, to whom I would like to express our highest appreciation. Firstly, Mr. Sisa Antosona, CEO South African Tourism, Ms. Angela Wood, Marketing Manager of Thomson Holiday, Pak Herman Rukmanadi, owner of Baratur Indonesia, and Pak Sigit Edianto, the Director responsible for Africa at the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. Indeed, I would like also to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to Ms. Valeria Daniel for moderating this webinar. Before COVID-19, we have a positive trend in tourism sector between Indonesia and South Africa. Indonesia has recorded increasing tourists from South Africa. The figures seem promising. In 2017, for instance, we received around 38,000 South African to Indonesia. In 2018, 41,000 coming to Indonesia. And in 2019, 47,000 tourists from South Africa visiting Indonesia. But now the pandemic indeed taking its toll. Today, we share the hope that we will overcome the pandemic together. How COVID-19 impact the industry, how countries are able to adjust, how to bring back the tourism industry. Is sustainable tourism is a lesson learned after the pandemic? These all questions that we have to answer. Hopefully today we can answer this very difficult question. I wish this webinar will provide all of us some of the answer of that question. This webinar is one of our combined effort to identify challenges and see opportunities to work on during and post-pandemic. I don't want to take your time any longer. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for joining us with this webinar. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Salman, for your remarks. Just like you said, hopefully this webinar will be able to answer your questions, especially on how we can adopt sustainable tourism development in the future. Now, to further discuss our topic today, I would like to invite our speakers to present their presentations. Each speaker will get a 10-minute time. So the first speaker is Mr. Sisa Ensona. He is the Chief Executive Officer of South African Tourism. As you can see on the slide, he also being active as the CEO of South African Tourism since October 2016. He is at the helm of steering the mandate at all operations of the National Destination Marketing Organization's head office and country offices. Mr. Sisa Ensona has over 20 years of experience and held several strategic leadership positions across different jurisdictions in Africa and Middle East in blue chip corporations and multinationals. He has also served on a member of boards, including as a non-executive board member for the Enterprise Development Council of South Africa. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Sisa Ensona to present your presentations. The time is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. And Your Excellencies, fellow panel members, and the audience at large, good morning to all of you and good afternoon to all of you. Where do I start when you talk about tourism? All I can tell you is that 6 months ago, I had a full head of hair and afro. Now I've got no hair, essentially. I mean, that's the level of stress that one goes through this particular environment. I'm going to take you through a very quick slide just to kind of share some of my views and sentiments in terms of where we find ourselves. So I'll start with the good news first, where that actually gives us a sense in terms of what did tourism look like in 2019? In 2019, globally, we had a rocker of a year. 1.5 billion international trips were undertaken worldwide, you know, from that perspective. It gives you a sense in terms of the growth of tourism. Now, what you see there in those black circles, it gives you the distribution or market share of where these 1.5 billion international trips went to. The one that I get excited, because my background is one of a financial one, is actually the spend, right? Tourism is ultimately all about getting people to move from one location to another in order to spend in those economies that help to contribute towards GDP and actually helps up to show up some of the economies from that perspective. So you get a sense then in terms of what the market share is in terms of numbers and also in terms of value globally around the world as well. Now, let me hone in on Africa a bit. There are three what I call tourism monsters on the continent. It is Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa, which actually have over 10 million international arrivals each amongst all of them. And it kind of gives that sense. Yeah, it's important just to kind of have a view that Africa, many of the economies or countries have taken a decision to actually diversify their revenue streams as a country and to start to look at tourism as a big growth contributor from that perspective. In South Africa, tourism is very, very important. 1 in 23 people are employed in the sector, right? So therefore, it also becomes something quite that we want to drive as an economy, trying to put it forward there. 9% of our, 4.5% basically is direct contribution from tourism, 9% indirect. It's always very difficult to look at the impact of tourism as to what is direct and versus not direct. And it's what you call all the induced sectors that are around from that perspective. 7% of our GDP comes from tourism as well. Now, South Africa took a view in terms of, future growth, which we call the National Development Plan for 2030. Now, we selected some key sectors that are going to drive our economy, and tourism is one of them. So when we wake up every single day, we are focused on two fundamental things: increasing the number of visitors into the country and increasing the revenue spent each visitor spends in the country. So in a simple thing, the longer we can keep tourists in the country, the longer and the more benefit the country gets from spend from that perspective. In terms of increasing visitors, we're looking for new visitors, but more importantly, looking at repeat visitors, because we know that we've got such a beautiful country. You can't just come on once only and kind of think that's it, And as the African kind of saying goes, once you go to Africa, you don't stop. You just keep on coming over and over again. And then also looking at the revenue spent, looking at the number of days that people spend in the country to reduce that, looking at the volume, the number of people, and then ultimately looking at the transactional side of it. Now, let's come back into the reality of where we are at in the COVID environment. South Africa went into a lockdown on the 26th of March. And one of the views that were taken was that when the lockdown started, only essential business services were allowed to operate. Now, tourism was not classified as an essential business. It basically meant that tourism was not allowed to operate, right? So all of tourism activities across the country closed down fundamentally on the 26th. Now, even before that, probably about 3 weeks earlier on in the month of March, when we look at tourism in South Africa, we look at leisure tourism, but also business tourism, the conferencing space, the MICE sector, incentives, meetings. That's very, very big spot for us, essentially. We started seeing a record number of cancellations just over and over and over again. One of the biggest conferences that we're going to have in the country was a World Ophthalmology Society, where 19,000 delegates from around the world were descending on South Africa for a period of 6 to 8 days, essentially. Now, when you get 19,000 people canceling, you can imagine that some of them were bringing their spouses with, some of them were bringing their children with, and that's the impact. All the hotels had to be canceled, and at the back of that. That was at the time, by the way, when South Africa had 0 cases of coronavirus, and we never understood as to why are people canceling. And we quickly picked up that it's not about the destination of the country, but it's about 19,000 people from different parts of the world, not knowing where each one comes from, congregating into one space for a number of days. It just posed too much risk from the perspective there. Now, South Africa is following what we call a risk-adjusted strategy based on the levels of lockdown. We've taken lockdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 being the most stringent and 1 being the most relaxed. Now, we are not following a date regime, so I can't tell you when the borders will open up, right? Instead, what we're following what we call epidemiological facts, which are announced by the president on a regular basis. So I can tell you that our international borders are opening when you get to level 1, but I can't tell you when you get to level 1, because that depends on how South Africa responds to the pandemic and is able to manage that as well. But the priority and objective remains to resume operations as early as it's safe to do so for South Africa, and importantly for its visitors as well. Now, just some thinking in terms of how we're looking at this. Our recovery of the sector is going to be led from inside out, starting off with domestic, regional, then international. It's all about confidence at the moment. It's all about trust, that people need to feel comfortable that they're able to actually enjoy and consume tourism in a trusted manner and environment. Because if you don't have that trust in place, you're essentially going to have problems. At the moment, we're also observing around the world what is happening. First wave, second wave, third waves of actually post countries that have actually opened. We're looking at the Northern Hemisphere, which is in its summer season, peak tourism season at the moment. And again, you can see there what to do and what not to do, from that perspective there. Now, it's important that for confidence sake, that countries, whether it's South Africa, Indonesia, we have to give confidence to the world that at the very least, we are handling the pandemic in our own countries with a good sense of confidence and also great sense of comfort. Because if we don't do that, the world will look at us and will look at each individual country and say, maybe not that one, maybe that one as well. Because what is happening at the moment, whether officially or unofficially, each country is looking at the rest of the world and probably classifying each country either into a red zone, yellow zone, or green zone. Green zone meaning I'm comfortable, it's safe for my citizens to travel over there. Yellow zone saying, precaution, right? And some are saying you can go, but if you come back, you'll be mandated to a mandatory 14-day quarantine. Red is don't touch, don't go there. So it's important then that each country strives not to be in that red zone, right? And essentially is in the green zone or the very least a yellow zone. Now, the issue is that we are all going through different stages of the pandemic. South Africa right now is spiking towards our peak, which is estimated to be August, latest September. And only when we've reached our peak and flattened the curve, as they say, will we then be able to lift up our heads in order then to start to easing up and opening up the sector. Right now, the focus is on managing the pandemic and actually looking at internally. Then as I conclude, what's important though, whilst we are going through the pandemic, it's important to protect the supply side of your sector. By that I mean, if you keep the sector out for a protracted amount of time, right? They are not allowed to operate. So meaning they're earning zero revenues. They still have overheads. They still have staff. They still have maintenance costs. If we don't have an intervention from government in order to actually protect the supply side, when we decide to open up the sector, we may just realize we don't have a tourism sector to speak of because it would have either closed down, closed shop, because essentially they ran out of funds. Zero revenues, but the costs are actually continuing from the perspective. So the first thing that was done from the country perspective is to protect the supply side. Once the government has said you're not allowed to operate, there's a duty to saying, how then do we put funding into that space that at least just keeps it going and protects the job from the perspective? The next space is about reigniting demand, right? So guess what's happened? We've closed our borders. No international airline is flying to the country. We all have to start from zero. 90% of the world's airlines have stopped flying. So we can't assume that the airlines that used to fly to the country, A, still exist, number one. B, will actually still continue on the frequencies that they had previously. It's all being rebased at the moment. We all have to re-network back in terms of getting that in place. Now, particularly for a tourism body like ourselves, I could have told you 6 months ago which are the top 5 markets that we are going to be investing in and make sure that we get the return from it. The problem is, COVID has pressed the delete button. It's made everything obsolete. Therefore, the countries that we used to look at and say, well, that's where we're going to get our growth from. When I look at them, I've got to say, can I still rely on the US as an example? Because they are royally messing up in terms of how to respond to the pandemic. Maybe I should shift my resources elsewhere in order to get higher return, and get faster returns. So therefore, we are all re-looking as well around the world as to where and which countries are going to be good source markets from us and everything else from that perspective. So that becomes quite key. The timing becomes important because if you time it, if you open up too early, you may be ready as a country, but the world is not ready to travel. Or vice versa, if you open up too late, you miss out the golden window to actually profile yourself to get. So you got to time it, at the right space. Again, as I said, I'm losing hair every single day trying to figure out in terms of what the ideal time is basically from that perspective. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just stop there for now in terms of just kind of giving you a perspective. It's a very fluid environment. I can assure you, absolutely no one has the answers, but we are all learning from each other in terms of how things are shifting and changing. Even countries that we thought, were really at the front edge of managing the pandemic, we've seen some of them regress. We've seen some of them even still keeping the borders closed. So it's really about making sure that we are able to get the confidence, and trust is a big factor. South Africa at the moment is at the space where we're starting with domestic tourism and getting, the South African citizens to travel their own country and really test a lot of the health and operational protocols that we put in place to make sure they work and to rein that confidence so that we can open up our borders again and look forward to welcoming you all to our beautiful country. Thank you very much. I'll take questions later.
Thank you, Mr. Sisa and Sona, for your presentation. So from your presentation, I got 3 main points. Probably the most important one is you need to build trust. And then secondly, you need to protect supply chain. And lastly, managing demand. So we are going to follow up on those topics later on during our Q&A sessions. Now I need to move to our second speaker. The second speaker is Mr. Herman Rukmanadi, the owner and managing director of Baratur, Bandung, Indonesia. So as you can see on your screen as well, we are going to share you his background. So Mr. Herman Rukmanadi has been in the tour operator industry for up to 36 years and has been dealing with South African tour operator since 1988. So he's very capable and with this topic. And then starting his first work as street guide from 1982 to 1984. And then for more than 18 years, Mr. Herman has been handling many South African clients. So for those who are not familiar with Baratur, this tour company specialized inbound tour operator to Indonesia. Besides South Africa, its major market are coming from Europe, such as Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, and Italy, as well as from Asia, such as Thailand, Singapore, and the Philippines. So without further ado, Mr. Herman Rukmanadi, the time is yours.
Thank you, Valerie, for very good introduction and very nice introduction. Thank you very much. Yes, let me introduce again myself. I'm Herman Rukmanadi. Actually, I have been managing this company for 36 years, so still running quite well. So for me, as the practitioner, when I look at this topic today, it is cost of COVID-19 on the tourism. Of course, I'm as a practitioner, I'm feeling it very, very much. It was impacted a lot to us, to our company. Since March 2022, we have all cancellation from all our agents from overseas, and this cancellation already until end of the year. So you can imagine March, April, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, we are in the big zero. Because they all cancel. And then this problem is not only canceled, but we have already arranged such a kind of, for instance, hotel booking, cruise booking, or restaurant, or some other thing. So especially also the flight. So this is really, really another problem coming up after the cancellation, because we cannot also just make a cancellation as it is. We have to go to some procedure. And then, of course, everybody knows that until today, we still do not have a clue when it will be finished or over. We never know. And this is the really questions. All sectors of the tourism industry are really impacted a lot. How many hotels they close? How many restaurants they close? as well as tourist attraction. Most of them, they have to close. Transport company and airline are suffering. Travel agency are also closed. And how many guides have to stay at home without any income? So it is the fact. Please note, for instance, if you have one employee or one guide without any job to handle the guide, this rate is not only one person, but at least there are three has to be feeding himself, wife, and kid. At least if they have one kid, so already three. So you can imagine nowadays how many people they don't have any job. You only easily times 3 times. So this is really, really big. So I mean, this is one of the really real cost of COVID-19. For example, my company itself, we have 32 employees. All of them now, they're staying at home. We call it as work from home, of course. But of course, you know, we like to keep them as much as possible to be our employees. Therefore, we have to giving them salary allowance monthly. At least they have to leave, but we have to give them. And then in the other side, my company gets zero income. That's what the previous speaker, my son, is talking. Really, this is the way that you have to face this pandemic at the moment. We have to be very strong. We have to find a solution for what to do, because we have to keep on going on. Because if you think, please do not ever think, okay, you stop employee, but please rate one people has 2 other people have to be feeding. Please thinking about that. So you have to keep as long as we can our employees, even we are in the zero income. It's the first thing. But anyway, this is the really big cost of the COVID-19. This means, you know, for me, what I like to think about, let's start moving, because I think the virus will be not go away. I'm not really sure about that. It will always be around. So we cannot wait until the virus is gone. So I think at the moment we have a good news. We have a good news because I heard from the authority of Bali, Bali will reopen on September 11th. So for this, let's pray that it will be happen, this thing. But the point is Pasigit here, also from the Ministry of the Pariwisata. The point is also how to do it if really that open. So in this stage that Indonesia has able to issue again visa on arrival on the same time, in parallel. Because for the tourists, I think it would be difficult if they don't have and able to get the visa on arrival. So in this stage, I think we need the assistance of the Ministry of the Tourism together with exterior minister, of course, to at least give us a line when exactly that will be open, so we can talk and we can promote again to our people overseas, that we can tell them that why don't you start promoting, because you can enter again Bali on this date, for instance. So this is very important. Otherwise, I think it's meaningless. This is from my side as the practitioner. And the other side also, if suppose that visa on arrival is issued, for instance, someday, I have another question. Does the country of origin of the client will allow them to come over to Indonesia. So in this case, because they considering the pandemic, so I really hope that the South African government will allow all their citizens to come and to visit Indonesia whenever it's open again. So this is my big hope, of course. So I have a letter here from the ambassador, the adaptation from the new era. Well, this is every day we get announcement, we get it. Well, anyway, news from the government side that we have to follow this new era. The adaptation of the new era. There is no other choice. We have to follow this. Everywhere we have to wear mask. Everywhere we have to make a distancing with other people. No shake hand others, which is the others. And we have to wash hand as much as possible. Of course, in the beginning, I think this is very difficult, especially in our custom. The Indonesian custom, which is always very polite each other. When you met, you really have to respect each other normally by shake your hand or by touch it, by everything. But at the moment, we have to say to them, I'm sorry, I'm not want to be not polite, but this has to be done. Of course, this also will be implemented to all our clients if they are coming in the new era. We have to adjust everything again. So this is actually is not easy at all. For instance, the bus seating capacity, but we must to do it. For instance, now with the bus capacity for 45, we only will be able to put 20 people maximum in, and also restaurant and other things. So this will be implemented. So this is for sure that we will do that. Because that is one of we have to do so that people will believe, as I mentioned from our previous speaker, they aspire it should be very safe. That's what we have to prove to the people, that we do it. So since now, we already prepare everything. All, for instance, they starting with the guide, with the face shield, with the masker, and we put in the bus a lot of the hand sanitizer, and we always ready masker to give away to everyone, and we have to do it all the time. This is the must. So it will be implemented. This is the same. I was the strategy during the outbreak. Of course, anyhow, we have to reduce our costs. There's another way. We have to reduce. We have to reduce the cost as much as we can for our usual life. So this is quite normal. Also including, I have to reduce my drinking of the South African wine because it's a cost. So I have to also do a lot of reading, because I like it very much. So I have to reduce also. So this is one of the thing of how to study during the outbreak. On the other hand, even we are now zero client, but we have to be very optimistic. We have to be very optimistic because I think, however, this virus, it will be a way out to get out from this pandemic. It should be. So in this case, myself, I keep on doing convince my all client overseas. I keep sending them the new product for the next year, for the following years, and convince them you have to try to keep on putting all of this in your brochure or your web that the client can see it. You just cannot stop because of the virus and we stop. Well, we don't do that. We have to keep going on to sell our product. We have to keep promoting Indonesia. And of course, on the other hand, Pak Sigit, I just really want, as soon as the pandemic over, we have to make a plan to invite the South African tour operator to come over to Indonesia. I think it's not so much over there. I think the tour operator will be, if I don't wrong, just please correct me, Angela. I think about 10 to 15 tour operators. So please invite the product manager and the marketing manager coming over to Indonesia, show them that Indonesia is safe for traveling. We've implemented all the rule of the health protocol. This is very, very, very important to do. Otherwise, you know, the people will know. They will never know what Indonesia look like at the moment. So I think this is very important. Really must to do it. So projections and hope, of course, we look at the reality that economy activity tourism has really stopped everything at the moment. So our hope, or maybe my message, please, that we can open the border post country as soon as possible. So the tourists from both countries can visit each other. And once they came, the economic, please believe me, when they came, believe me, the tourists will be start moving on because the multiplayer effect of the tourism is so high. Suppose if you have only 2 people, the guide will get a job, the driver will have a job, transportation company will get an order, restaurant, hotel, everything. Only 2 people. So imagine if you have 1,000. So this is very important. Yeah, well, that is at the moment. But you know, for me, I have been visiting South Africa over than maybe 20 times now. Because I started coming in 1998, 1999, something like that. That's why I met Angela Wood. I think I already know her over than 25 years. Yeah. And then, but for me, South Africa, I mentioned again, it's really very potential market. I saw a lot of leisure, a lot of incentive. I have been handling so many incentive from South Africa. They have a lot of divers. It is very good for Indonesia as well. You see, so that for me, it's really, really good. The most interesting also, the FATEC is here. There are also some other market, which is I like to mention to you. I call it as an ethnic, because which is the belief that the people, these people, they believe their ancestors coming from Indonesia. This is very good. At least three groups a year that are traveling around, and they traveling at least to 3 islands, because normally the South African 95% I can mention they're only coming to Bali. But those people, the ethnic one, they are traveling at least Java, Sulawesi, and Bali. So this is really, really good. So for me, anyway, let's start moving and let's start open the border each other with very strong health protocol. So show the world that African and Indonesia are really safe for travel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Herman, for your presentations. Very powerful message from someone who's been visiting South Africa very often, 20 times. I forgot to mention to everyone that I have visited South Africa in the year 2000 during my year as Miss Jakarta. So I visited Pretoria, Durban, and Cape Town. So, and I really find it very amazing. And of course, just like you said, it has very potential markets as well, especially in the in how we can expose more historical relations between Indonesia and South Africa. So I will have a follow-up question for you later in our Q&A session. For now, I will invite our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mrs. Angela Wood, the General Manager for Sales and Marketing at Thompson's Holiday, to deliver your presentation for 10 minutes. So for Mrs. Angela, before I let you present your presentation, I would like to introduce you first. Mrs. Angela Wood worked for Thompson Holidays. This company has over 40 years of expertise in providing the finest, carefully selected collections of holidays to the most sought after destinations. With the accompany local knowledge of destinations such as South Africa, Indonesia, Mauritius, Thailand, Zanzibar, and Mozambique. So consumers are assured of receiving unrivaled holiday deals, unbeatable added values, and the finest quality at each destination. So Mrs. Angela Wood herself is currently the General Manager for Sales and Marketing at Thompson's Holidays, one of South Africa's favorite holiday travel companies. She has been involved in travel industry for almost 30 years and has been working at Thompson's Holiday for a majority of her time in various divisions. She has a passion for travel and has traveled extensively all over the world. So without further ado, Mrs. Angela Wood, the time is yours.
Thank you, Valerie. Thanks very much. What I'll do is I'm just going to share my screen with everybody. Oh, I can't share my screen. Oh, there we go. If you can just let me share my screen, then I can do the presentation. But thank you, everybody, for your time. I think it's really, really important that we do speak about how important our tourism is into Indonesia and mainly to Bali. For Thompson's Holidays, just to give you a bit of a background, we are the largest tour operator in South Africa, and our top 3 destinations would be South Africa, Indian Ocean Islands, and the Far East. So it's very, very important for us, and thank you for inviting me on this webinar. From a perspective of how devastating it is, it's been, okay, I can share my screen now. Let me just see if I can get into my presentation here. Sorry, give me one moment. There we go. From a perspective of tourism, it's been very devastating. The amount of jobs that have been lost in the South African market is really terrible. In our own business, as Herman has said and Cisa has mentioned, it's something that came out of nowhere and we knew nothing about, and it really took us by surprise. But what we've got to do from a Thompson's perspective is how we respond to it. We're very lucky that we're a part of the Travel Corporation, which is a big business, and you can see some of the logos that are on this the slide here, just to show you the magnitude of the business that I work for. And in having that, luckily we are able to continue. What we've done over this time, a bit of an overview of the economic impact over COVID, is that we've had to look at our own business. We've had to look at see how we can change our business, because we need to remain relevant. We've used the time to try and restructure our business, to remodel our business, to try and see what we can do to be able to still have a big outbound business to all over the world, as well as our local market. We've been working on new, exciting online systems that can enhance this. What we've done is we've tried to remain relevant, and we've been doing a lot of online training. So it's been important to keep communicating with the traveler and the partners, our partners, so that they know that we are still out there to be able to sell all destinations. So we've been very active on all of that. We haven't stopped, and I know Herman spoke about it, but we haven't stopped advertising. What we've done is we've done quite a lot of domestic travel, because our borders, as everybody knows, are not open at the moment. So we don't have any leisure travel happening. It's only essential workers, as Cisa said. So we have tried to use this time to still showcase different destinations. This is not specifically Bali, but just to show you that in these times, you've got to keep relevant. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep marketing. So when the time comes, that the agents know that you're the person to go to. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea how we've continued to educate everybody in order to grow sales when business does come back. We've created YouTube channels where we've done all the training, so that gives you an idea there. We've done a new website where we've got lots of packages for Bali. We've showcased a lot of ideas that we can use, where you can get ideas of pricing. We do believe that possibly the borders will only open in January for international. We're hoping for sooner, but as Cisa mentioned as well, is we've got to have the pandemic under control so that the different countries will accept our business as well. So we've got to our biggest focus at the moment, as Cesar mentioned, is that we're going into our peak and we've got to flatten the curve. So we're working very hard from a South African perspective to first do that before we can open our borders internationally. So that just gives you an idea from our side of what we've done on our side. I think what the lessons that we've learned is that something like this can cripple your business in, I don't know, since March, it's been extremely crippling. What is important for us is that we have to have good partnerships. And I do believe with Indonesia, we've had really, really good partnerships with Herman, with the embassy, with them participating in South Africa, be it they come to a getaway show or a WTM, they participate. And I think that's important. What we're going to have to do to survive going forward is make sure that people do feel safe going to Indonesia. They need to have trust. They need to know that when they are traveling, because it is going to be a different travel, it is going to be a different travel experience, most definitely, because of the safety aspects, because of everything that has changed. But I do believe we have to live with it. This pandemic is not going away immediately. It may be around for another good few months. So it's how we live with the pandemic. And that's how we need the airlines to come on board, the hotels to come on board. Herman mentioned about the visas, very, very important. We obviously can get no visas now. So, I mean, the borders are not open, but it needs to, when we know that the borders are open, it needs to happen quickly or on arrival. For our partners, I think it's important, the flexibility, so that hotels are flexible if they do need to cancel, they do need to change, that there are amendment fees. It's very important, market to the South Africans, that we get the best deals possible, great value adds, because South Africans do love the country. I mean, there's no question about Bali, they love it. And they love the beach, they love the shopping, and they love the people and the culture. So it's about offering the best offering to South Africa as such. The airlines, as Cesar mentioned, we don't know who will be around, who won't be around, but where we have been is we've been using Middle Eastern Airlines, and we've been using some of the Eastern Airlines, for example, Singapore Airlines. I mean, we've tried for many, many years. It would be fantastic if we had a direct airline. And that really, really would be amazing one day. I don't think it's the best time to do it now. But our average stay of South Africans is between 5 to 6 nights in Bali. And they mainly, as mentioned by Herman as well, they mainly do go to Bali. That's the market that we do look after. But yeah, that's really the end. So really what I think is important for us is to how we're going to work together, how we can just work together and make sure that we are all giving the best deal, being flexible, and also just we have to hang in there. We have to be positive, because it has been very disheartening, because so many people have lost jobs. And as Herman says, it's affected many, many families. It's affected many businesses. We've seen a lot of consolidation happening in South Africa. We've seen a lot of travel agencies had to move and work from home. Obviously, we're all working from home still at the moment, but they've had to give up their rent and have had to move into their home premises in order to survive. But I think it's about creating demand. So if we get the support from Indonesia, if we get the support to create that demand, we will do it. We will continue with it, and we will grow the product, because the Far East in general is an extremely, extremely positive, popular destination. As Cesar mentioned, we're still in lockdown. We still got a long way to go at this stage. So domestic tourism will be first, but we need to just learn every day from all the different countries. We need to just be very fluid, as we say, and make sure that we are ready when it does come back for traveling. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mrs. Angela Wood. We are now going to move to our last speaker, Mr. Raden Sigit Wicaksono, the Director of Tourism Marketing for East, South, and Central Asia region, and Acting Director of Tourism Marketing for Europe, Middle East, America, and African region, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia. So before I let you start your presentation, I would like to introduce Mr. Sigit to everyone. As you can see on your slide, now we are showing you his background. So Mr. Sigit, he's also someone who has involved in tourism for a long time. He graduated from University of Nagoya, Japan with doctoral degree in international cooperation studies and achieved his master degree in international relations from the International University of Japan. So for now, Mr. Sigit will explain to us about what are the steps that has been taken by Indonesian government, especially the Ministry of Tourism and the Creative Economy, in terms of navigating the new normal era for tourism industry. To Mr. Sigit Wicaksono, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Valeria Daniel. Sorry being late for to joining this session. I just finished another session in other room. Thank you very much once again for the invitation by KBRI, by the Embassy of South Africa in Pretoria. Thank you very much once again, and also for all the panelists, distinguished panelists, as well as the participating people in this webinar. Let me share several things for this session. Next, please. So at least there are three things that I would like to share with you. Of course, the COVID-19. I don't know whether this already being touched upon by the other panelists, but let me just again give a little bit how the Indonesian government as well as the community handling with the situation. And then, of course, the main part is the implementation of the clean health, safety, environment protocol. This is very important one because this is also one of the consideration aspect to encourage when the destination is ready, and then accordingly when the border is open. And then the marketing program for market recovery. Next, please. Next. So if we see from the data per yesterday, we already been through 100,000 confirmed. But if we see again, we check the data that the good indication is the recover number is getting increasing. So we have per yesterday 58,000 more recover. This is also to show that how the government also serious in handling with the pandemic. Next, please. This is the COVID-19 in Bali. Why Bali we like to show? Because Bali is the most destination to be visited. I believe that African people, including South Africa, most of the visit is not, if not for business, then will be for leisure, and Bali is one of the most destination to be visited. So we like to show that Bali also, the government, the regional government, as well as the community are handling with the pandemic quite well. Next, please. This is the implementation of the protocol. Next, please. We've been preparing, and then we have done training and simulation as well as the campaign, and then also we are now in the process implementation of the protocol as well. We need to make sure that all tourist destinations are being implementing the clean health, safety, environment protocol. Next, please. So this is all the spot that we think are important for the implementation of the clean and safety protocol. Accommodation, yes, of course, hotel, and then restaurant, transportation services, and also tourist attraction and other all facilities that are related for to be visited by the tourists. Next, please. This is to show the service flow in accommodation services, the hotel, from the area entering the hotel up to the other services being done in the hotel or accommodation. Next, please. This is the service flow in restaurant, because restaurant also considered very important for tourists from the area entering the location up to the other services. Next, please. This is the time when the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy visiting Bali to ensure that the clean health safety environment protocol being in place for the implementation. So this is to show that Bali is ready for welcoming tourists later on. Next, please. This is again a Bali to make sure that everything in place. So from the tourist attraction, restaurant, hotel, and other public services. Next, please. This is in Jakarta, because if we talk about the main gate for Indonesia tourism, of course, Bali is the main gate. Yeah, it contribute around 39%, yeah, almost 40%. Yeah, and then the second one is main gate is Jakarta, contribute around 18%. So we need to make sure that Jakarta also ready for the implementation of the CHSE protocol. This is Banyuwangi. Banyuwangi is 1 hour from Bali, yeah, located in East Java. This is one of the destinations that are considered also ready for the implementation of the protocol. Next, please. This is in Bintan. Bintan, if you know Singapore, this is quite close from Singapore. And also other than Bintan is Batam. But Bintan is one of the destination also being ready and now in the green zone. So they are to show that they are handling with the pandemic quite well and ready for the implementation of the protocol as well. Next, please. This is in Yogyakarta. Yogyakarta located in central Java. And this is one of the destinations also famous for European and other tourists. I believe African people need also to explore this place because Yogyakarta is one of the destination, 5 super priority destination for Indonesia. Next, please. This is our marketing program. Last part. Next, please. So after we had the first case of the COVID-19 in early March, what we do is more for online activities. We do campaign, we do communication strategy, our marketing communication doing have done on this, and then also like market update. We do webinar for to reconnect the market as well as to reconnect our partner to share about market update, as well as we want to share with the seller as well in Indonesia about how is the market going, and also from the partner they would like to know about the destination update as well. So later on also we do virtual B2C, B2B virtual sales mission that are possible to be done with the industry. Next, please. So during this situation, what we are using is our hashtag is Dream Now, Travel Tomorrow. We put a lot of the content for culinary and then destination to put in our own media, Indonesia.travel. Next, please. This is for domestic market. We launched recently Indonesia Care, or if you read I Do Care, this is part of the communication strategy that need to make sure that the clean, health, safety, and as well as the environment being in place. And we are ready for the later on to welcome the tourists. Next, please. Other than own media, we also have a collaboration with digital media as well as electronic media, social media, and our paid media like you see, YouTube, Twitter, CNN, and other things. Next, please. This is one of the mobile application to show how the government also serious in handling with the pandemic. So this is part of the integrating system that we combat the COVID-19. Next, please. This is that I mentioned earlier that we have a collaboration with the digital platform that we keep inspire the market, and we maintain our assistant also in the market, and we also to show the readiness of destination by using collaboration with on digital online system. Next, please. This is a little bit data. I believe that embassy also have this data. Next, please. So if we see from the last 4 years, we see that the data is growing. Yeah, 2000, and 2018 is 41,000 something. We see that the data is keep increasing, and of course, unfortunately, we don't have complete data on length of stay and expenditure as well. So if necessary, we will, I believe that the embassy also have some information on this matter as well. We expect that South Africa and other Africa people also see Indonesia as the good destination, even though right now we are in the pandemic situation, but post pandemic, of course, we expect a better condition, and then you are welcome again to see Indonesia destination. I think that I can share, Ibu Valerina, Daniel. Thank you very much once again to embassy and all other panelists and participating participants. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Sigit, for your presentation. So now we have heard from all speakers about their presentations and their arguments regarding how we can respond to COVID-19 pandemic. Now I'm going to go to our next session, which is the question and answer session. So we are going to have 3 rounds. The first round will be a question from me as a follow-up for your presentation, and then the second round will be from the submitted questions by the audience from the beginning of the program, and then later on we're going to have an open floor for the audience. They can raise their questions through the chat room, and then we will pick up or we will choose the questions later on for the panelists. So my first question is going to be for Mr. Sisa Ensona, of course. As the first speaker, Mr. Sisa Ensona has already explained to us that it is better for a country, for example, South Africa, to implement 3 steps: building trust, protecting supply chain, and then managing demand. So as a follow-up question, I would like to ask Mr. Sisa Ensona about what is your prediction on tourism in the future post-pandemic, knowing that you already implement these steps, and then however, South Africa is still imposing lockdown in several parts of their area. So what is your comments on that, Mr. Sisa Ensona?
Thank you, and I think a very good, informative panel there. So we're learning a lot. Thank you very much. And Valerina, we look forward to welcoming you back in South Africa again. So please come back soon. Let me start with the first one, trust. I think that's the key element that we have to regain back as a sector. Because simply put, you know, the virus needs movement for it to spread. Tourism is in the business of moving people around. So those two, in fact, are actually kind of opposed to each other. However, what we have done in South Africa, and certainly what I've learned now from in Indonesia, we are implementing our own health and operational protocols in order to give confidence to our travelers out there that indeed we've taken, you know, certain precautions. The challenge that we need to have is that we will need at some stage to need to get some global standards, because at the moment everyone's doing their own thing, right? And imagine now traveling to another country, you first have to research what their standards are first. So you need a global body like a United Nations World Tourism Organization that is going to endorse one set of protocols that are consistent throughout the world there. Secondly, as well, is someone talked about visas, you know, in terms of, you know, kind of working through visas. I think it was Angela raised it in terms of, so that when things open, things happen much smoother. Here's the thing, we have to reimagine what tourism would look like during the pandemic and after the pandemic, because we speak now with the pandemic, in the sense that the offerings that how we're going to deliver tourism are going to be fundamentally different. You'll see a lot more technology playing a role, in my view. You'll see a lot less human interaction across the chain itself. And, you know, essentially you can forget about those big lobbies, reception at hotels, as an example, where you simply walk in your own luggage and just tap your phone, you know, on your hotel door, and that's it, you know, from that perspective. So we have to reimagine it. And even now around access and the visas, by the way, I think I see more countries implementing visas, not to ask them how much money do you have and, you know, what kind of physical risk do you pose for the country. But I think everyone will be curious and want to know what your medical potential risk is into the country, because no one wants to import the virus into the country there. So that still needs to stabilize around the world as to what kind of a regime are we going to have in terms of knowing where you've traveled to and also your health status. So trust becomes a very, very key and important element. And how countries are managing themselves through the pandemic will determine actually how attractive they are, you know, going forward, because it is in that loyalty element that that we have to build and make sure that we are able to kind of, you know, when we open up, countries can accept our own business. So when you ask the question is, what next, because the country's in lockdown, etc., you've got to understand that tourism is merely one of the many sectors in the country. So when the country is locked down, it is not for tourism, but it is for the general health of the country in itself. And again, now the really difficult part is holding back for a little bit longer, because it will pay so much more dividends than rushing to open now, in my view, with what we've seen, by the way, in a lot of European countries that are starting to backtrack right now, you know, quite a lot. You know, so, and that's the difficult balance over there. And as I said, in terms of when you hold back a sector, you indeed have a duty to keep that sector going, you know, and there's to find out what operational costs that are unavoidable that needs to be literally not in the form of a loan, not in the form of any, but just in the form of bailout, that you need to bail out this sector so that you can have it on the other side when things open again. And then lastly as well, we have to be obsessed about understanding the new consumer behaviors, right? Because we can't use old concepts that we know in a COVID environment, right? Certainly, I think the profile of the travelers will change when we all understand that those that are elderly, 60 years plus, are the most vulnerable. Don't expect them to be traveling in big numbers. Don't expect families to be traveling in groups. You're probably going to look at a younger kind of more mobile type of tourist. What are they looking for? And by the way, what they are looking for is changing every single day based on all the data points they're also getting as well. So it's going to be, we have to keep up with all of this and lead at the times and make sure that we can actually deliver that.
Thank you for your comments on that topic. So I hope it's going to be memorable explanations to our audience, and then we're going to have another Q&A sessions with the audience as well, Mr. Ensona. So please stay on your place. My next question will be for Pak Herman Rukmanadi from Baratur. As you said, booking has been canceled since March 2020. However, you said that promotion and marketing activity should continue, even though the market actually maybe stopped right now. But what do you think, or maybe what kind of strategy that you think should be taken by the government regarding the visa on arrival, for example, because we all know that not all countries have the same situations. So we must be very selective on deciding which country would get the visa on arrivals policy, for example. So what's your opinion on that? Herman?
Yeah, thank you, Val. Thank you, Valerie. Yes, as I mentioned before, we have actually the good news from the Bali authority that mentioned it that the Bali will reopen in September 11. That's very good news. Let's pray that it will be happen. Of course, if we are talking, because I'm an inbound player, so if we are talking about inbound tourism to Indonesia, the people who like to come to Indonesia, especially the foreigners, they need some time to prepare everything. They can make it at sudden. So now, for instance, if they plan to reopen in September, now they already have to decide that how about the visa for which country they will allow to come. So this is very important. Otherwise, it will be meaningless, because if it's open, then, for instance, okay, 2 weeks before 11, and they said, okay, it's open. It's not used at all, because they need at least 2 months, 3 months before, even from South Africa, of course, they need some time. So that's why, in this case, the strategy they have to be parallel. If the authority mentioned that 11th September, so from the side of the immigration, it is also will be open on the same day or earlier. This is very important. So this is the very much need for our strategic as inbound to convince and to sell to our overseas partner. So, okay, Bali will be open 11, please sell it, something like that. Of course, in which country they allowed to come, it's, of course, we have to choose it, for instance, which one. But they have to mention, okay, this will be only for Germany, for Netherlands, for South African, for only country, something like that. So it has to be very clear. So that is the one. That's very, very important. So I hope Pak Sigit can a little bit giving some more explanation regarding this, because it's very important. And the second thing, regarding what I mentioned to you, that we have to keep on promoting, even in this pandemic. Because again, I mentioned that talking about the inbound, we are talking now that is for the next client or the next 2 years. So we have to keep on doing, so they will not forget Indonesia, because we are always on sale on their web or in their brochure. Then the third is very, very important. How to convince? Because, you know, okay, we know that we have a social media. But social media can be promotion, but not for marketing. This is for my child. This is the business of, for me, the business of the tourist business is really has to be face to face. We have to know each other. We have to convince. So you have to meet this tour operator, because we are, as a tour inbound operator, is not selling. The selling is the tour operator belong to their country. They are selling to their people. It's not ours. So what we need, the people who are selling, the name is a tour operator, we have to invite them to Indonesia, to show them what they are going to sell. This is what I have done it for so many years. And in fact, this is the way to do. So this is the three things we have to do, whatever we can do as early as possible. So this is the three things I really emphasize that we have to do. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you, Pak Herman. Very good insight, and I hope Pak Sigit will be able to reply to your comments as well. Okay, now I'm going to ask a question to Mrs. Angela Wood. So, so you said that borders will not open until health stabilize, because safety aspect is very important these days. So when you say that Indonesia and South Africa needs to have more closer partnerships, so what kind of specific partnership that you could propose in this kind of situation?
Thank you. So I think it's important that, as Herman's mentioned, is that we've got to keep promoting Bali to the South Africans, or Indonesia to the South Africans. So the partnerships that I was talking about are more having the flexibility once we make the bookings, to have good relationships, to have good value adds, to make sure that it's an attractive destination for South Africans to travel to. The safety aspect is a huge importance, and that has been touched on, and it has been shown us as to what you are putting in place from a safety perspective. But as Cisa has also mentioned, travel is going to change. We're not going to see the huge groups traveling. We're going to still see some families traveling. We're going to see more individual traveling. We're going to see a different experience, and it's about knowing what to expect on the other side. It's about having that confidence to sell your destination, to sell the country, so that South Africans are aware this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to work, you're going to feel safe. We can never guarantee they're not going to get the pandemic, the COVID, but the point is it's about that confidence and having the partnership in order to drive that confidence from our side, because that is what Thomson's is here to do, is to drive sales to Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Angela Wood, for responding to my question. Now, lastly, to Pak Sigit, maybe you can respond to Pak Herman's suggestion first before I give you another question.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Valerina and Pak Herman, for your very important point, Pak. Yeah, of course, Pak Herman. We've been here in during the situation. We expect, of course, for the better condition, because we think that health safety is number one, and that is why in the presentation we share with the participant that we are now in the position of the implementation of clean health safety environment protocol in those destinations, especially in the most visited destination like Bali. We need to ensure that are in place first. And of course, about the time, Pak, this is a very important question, yeah, because I just written from the other room. Actually, we talk for the Spain market as well. Those important question also been posted in every webinar that we've been through. Of course, in principle, via Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, of course, we have other related minister of concern related stakeholders that are also in the position for this authority, Pak. When the border is open, when the destination also can be visited. Of course, the sooner the better, the principle. I believe that all the people now already receiving the information that 9 July, Bali is open for local Bali. And then end of July, this coming soon, or early August, is we encourage opening for the domestic tourism first. And then you mentioned about September. Of course, that is better for the tourism sector, but of course we have also to make sure other related ministry like Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have also immigration. We have also Ministry of Health related with this decision. And to share with you, but actually we are working very hard on this. Just yesterday we had a coordinating meeting in coordinating Ministry of Maritime and Investment Affairs, and also talking about this. So the sooner the better, but again, to make sure that the implementation health safety protocol being in place in destination, Pak. And after that, of course, we will come to domestic tourists and later on, of course, foreign tourists, including from Africa, especially South Africa. Welcome to the destination. The sooner, the better, Pak.
Understood, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Sigit, for responding Pak Herman's comments previously. So, maybe we're going to move to our next round. It's going to be questions from the audience. Okay, so I will read you the questions that have been submitted first. This one is from Kirana, a student from Diponegoro University, Semarang, Indonesia. Is there any difference in people's behavior from Indonesia and South Africa in tourism context? What is the impact of this pandemic for diplomatic relations between South Africa and Indonesia in terms of tourism? So maybe, Pak Herman, you would like to comment on that first before I go to Mr. Sisa?
I think this is regarding the diplomatic or just regarding the people?
No, the first one is about the people behavior.
Oh, okay. Okay, as long as I know, the behave of, I think this is very relative, The behave of the people, they only two sides. Sometimes we mention good or bad, that is one thing. But most of the people which I have met, they are okay, they are fine, because the South African who used to be traveling, I think they behave good, as well as Indonesia. Of course, we know that Indonesia is always very polite, even too polite sometimes, because that. So in the sense of the behave, the different, of course, only the habit is different, but the people itself is the same. The culture is different, the habit is different. But if you mention the behavior of both, they are good. I have met so many of them, right? So in details that we have to talk about, of course, like for instance, okay, Indonesian maybe they more respect like this when you met the elder people, but the South African, which is influenced by European, the respect is not like that, but they say hi, something like that. So it's only something that the habit they used to do. But in general, the behave are good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Herman. How about Mr. Sisa and Sona? Can you respond to this question about people's behavior?
Yeah, as I said earlier on, I think the behavior and needs is something that is changing on a regular basis as people start to see different data points on a regular basis. The key thing, however, is that there's a lot of what I call pent-up demand, right? Because all of us have been locked in. We are all wanting to get out at some point in time. So there is that pent-up demand. The counterbalance to this, however, is that all economies, all world economies are not doing very well at the moment, right? We are seeing mass retrenchments happening right across the board. So the confidence or the ability for people to actually spend money, right? Especially on a sector like tourism, which is discretionary quite a lot, is going to be reduced in my view, So I think people will start to look at the basics and make sure that is covered. Then, they can start to kind of look at how they can actually undertake tourism. What's important here is even from a country bilateral point of view, I think everyone is starting from scratch, right? And again, looking at countries that you look at and says, these ones have handled the pandemic very well, I'm going to give them a thumbs up, because if they travel to my country, they're not exposing me, to potential more risks. Those will start to form on a regular basis. And I think it's going to be quite interesting as to see the world map in red, yellow, and green as it starts to change and everything else from that perspective there. Because again, ultimately, it's all about the consumer. It's all about the confidence that we give. And for this to work, by the way, we need both inbound and outbound, because yes, the planes must come in full, but they also need to go back full. Otherwise, the cost proposition may be fundamentally different. And then lastly is how tourism will be delivered is something that's still got a question mark out there. Certainly as South Africa, we believe that we are very advantageously poised because we've got a very big country with a lot of open spaces. And I think the modern day traveler is going to be looking for that social distancing and not to be packed up in a resort of 10,000 people in one go, but rather, wide spaces. We've got a lot of safaris and everything else there. So we will lead with that element of space, security, and a lot of access, as opposed to being bunched up together. We'll see how far that gets us, but I think it's going to be interesting as we mold the future there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sisa. Now, Ms. Angela, can you describe the people's behavior?
I think it's been summed up very nicely by Sisa and by Herman. As we mentioned again, there's going to be change, and it's going to be about how people react. But the big thing is that people they do want to get out. They are tired of being at home. They need a change of scenery. Yes, it is unfortunate that it is a discretionary spend. So we are going to battle, and that's why we need to make it affordable and attractive. And I think people will most definitely travel, but I think it's been covered on people's behavior. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now, to respond to questions, the second question, what is the impact of this pandemic for diplomatic relations between South Africa and Indonesia in terms of tourism? Or can maybe Ambassador Saman or the Consul General can reply to this question?
Thank you very much, Ibu Valeria. I think in the diplomatic relation, I think we are fine. We are trying to deliver what we have agreed upon as we agreed on the comprehensive partnership with and then the plan of action is also on the way to be implemented. We have some MOUs now underway. We just finalized our agreement on many subjects, including the defense agreement. So maybe in the near future we will sign the agreement. On the tourism, I think it's great that you mentioned about this. I think the two countries has a very potential tourism attraction, and it's complement each other, because in Indonesia we have almost everything, but we don't have, for instance, the safari that Africa can offer to us. But what we are now working on, and that my brother Sisa can also help us. That is on the reciprocal visa-free for Indonesian to come to South Africa. I believe Pak Herman can confirm us that there are a lot of potential tourists to come to Indonesia. And then I believe that according to the statistic, at least in the normal way and the normal situation, at least 10 million tourists from Indonesia doing the international travel every year. And then spending is quite high. about 450 US dollar a day. It's very, very high. So it's very potential for South African tourism to receive more Indonesian to come. I think that's the issue that we are now working on. I hope that the tourism operators can also help us in making the reciprocal treatment to Indonesian visa regular passport holder have a visa free to visit South Africa. That's just a piece of information that I can share with you, Ibu Valeria, and this webinar. Thank you very much, Ibu Valeria. I think Ibu Valeria is still.
I'll still unmute file.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, now.
So I'm going to go to the next question. It is from Said Fatona, Foreign Service Officer from Indonesian Embassy in Kuwait. So the question is, arranging travels looks challenging, particularly dealing with different flight regulations and health protocols. How tourism business translates these considerations into opportunity? So maybe Pak Sigit can answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Farenina, once again. Thank you, Pak Dubes. Thank you for the invitation. I see also.
Selamat Pak untuk jabatannya, Pak.
Terima kasih Pak. I see also our Consul General, Pak Aji.
Sore, Pak Sigit.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak. Thank you also for the question from Kuwait, our embassy in Kuwait, yeah, Ibu Fatona, yeah, about how to deal with different regulations during this situation. Of course, this is one of the challenges that we, whether like or not, we have to face, and we have to find a way to have a solution for this. Of course, for Indonesian side, for Indonesian tourism side, we need to make sure first that we are in all the destinations that are visited, and need to ensure the implementation of the clean health, safety, environment protocol. This is because we consider that the health is number one. Yeah, health is number one. Of course, we have other purposes, yeah, like economic, tourism, and other important purposes. But again, the important aspect we see during this pandemic is the health. So health is number one aspect to consider. So I believe that all other countries also now almost 200, more than 215 something countries are dealing with pandemic. So the aspect of the health is being be a concern of many countries. So again, if we see many regulations because of this pandemic, that is one of the challenges that we have to again, yeah, to find solutions, because we don't want to have any potential like a second wave or any other thing that we don't expect in the future. So again, for those destinations that we are going to promote to be visited by the tourists, including from Africa, South Africa, and Middle East, like from Kuwait and other countries, we need to make sure that they are in implementation of those health, safety, and protocol. And first for the staff, and then also the services, and then the destination all around, and also for the tourists coming. This is to make sure that be and safe. Also, of course, we need collaboration, assistance, help for all related stakeholders, like of course from us, government side, and then from travel agent, yeah, tour operator, and all business partners. I think that is our response. Yeah, thank you very much once again for the question.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Sigit. Now I would like to ask a comment from the from Pak Muhammad Siraj Parwito, our Consul General. Would you like to add another comment?
Terima kasih, Bu. The way I see it, I think African countries now trying to find a balance between income and health risk, because every country needs, of course, revenue from tourism, but the money also comes with virus. So we have to find a fine balance between those. We need revenue, but we cannot also jeopardize health risk. For countries who has single crop economy, depended very much on tourism, like Cuba, Peru, or Machu Picchu, even Cape Town. Cape Town is heavily dependent on tourism, and they, I think 80% of their revenue comes from tourism. And the first case of Corona was actually in Cape Town from tourists from Europe. It was in March. But now, after nearly 4 months, now it has become local transmission. So I don't know, because you need to find policies that could accommodate tourists, but at the same time do not jeopardize economy. Because if I were a tourist, I would be concerned more with my health when I because now it's time for local transmission. When I go to another country and then there's like a local transmission of Corona, I would be more concerned with that. And besides that, I think now every country is now more I don't know, more like selfish, because they try to close their border for those countries who don't have very good health regulations. Like most countries in Africa, they close their borders until October. Like in Nigeria, they don't open their border until October. Even Argentina also. So we see that even for essential travels in South Africa, the government has not allowed for diplomats exchange. We are in the process of exchanging staff, but we still wait for the government's approval for their movement. So I think tourism is more like for some foreseeable future. I don't see any movement in international tourism. So that's why, of course, some tour operators in South Africa, they are offering like a virtual tours, safari virtual tours, but I don't believe in that kind of tourism because for me, safari is when you go with the jeep and then you go, you see the animals by yourself, not by virtual. I don't think that's not an alternative for tourism. That's some of my thoughts, I think. Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you, Pa, for adding a comment on that topic. So the next question is to Pak Sigit. This is regarding how do we restart MICE and event activities at these times? It seems people still has doubt on this activity. It is from MICE practitioner from Jogja, Indonesia. Can you reply to that, Pak Sigit?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, we have other deputy, other division dealing with MICE and events, under Ibu Kiki, but it's okay. We are here in the promotion, pemasaran, promotion division. And of course, during this pandemic, one of the challenge is about the event, how we try to hold and try to prepare for the events. Yeah, even during this pandemic, this kind of challenge, actually also we should expose also the positive side. So it means that if we are consider one of the country that we can manage the pandemic very well, and then we can also prepare for holding the event. Why not? Because we need to make sure that the destination or the location that will be held the event are ready for the protocol first. If we like to do the event, everything must be in place, like the clean, health, safety, and environment. We need to make sure, we need to make sure that we is all being ready for the to be applied for the protocol. I believe that MICE and events, of course, one of the one that we encourage first for this time being is for more for domestic, because we are now doing the stages by staging, we encourage first for domestic tourists, and then also in accordance with that, of course, domestic event that we encourage local staycation, and then local visit by cities, and local visit later on by provinces. That is we encourage first like that. Like Bali famous for doing MICE events, and also Jakarta, and maybe some other destination as well. We are now in the process for preparing some of those events that are potential, even though during this pandemic, to be held. To be held. Of course, again, we need to make sure the readiness of those location for the safety and health protocol before we decided to make event or to prepare event in those location. This is a quite challenge, but it is not something that not possible. It is something possible.
Okay, thank you, Pak Sigit. Now I will go to our third round. It's going to be questions from the chat room that has already been forwarded by our participants today. Maybe this to Mr. Sisa. How we utilize time during the pandemic in South Africa and Indonesia for the Indonesian government, or for example, open the borders, or maybe fix the main destination, and how you do that in your country. Please explain that in 2 or 3 steps according to your tourism marketing program. So maybe this is to South Africa first.
Thank you. Absolutely. So when the borders are closed and there's no tourism activity happening, the balance that we have to keep is about how do we ensure that South Africa is not forgotten globally as a tourism destination, right? So we want to have presence, but we have to be very smart about the type of presence we have, because we can't be showcasing big posters about travel to South Africa, our beaches, our safari, when we know that the world is actually fighting a pandemic where people are dying every single day. So it'll be very insensitive of us, actually not practical, to actually have that. And what we did is we changed our stance to saying, how do we showcase ourselves as a caring brand? And what we did essentially was to say, for the very first time in the history of South African tourism, we told people not to travel, right? We literally told them not to travel so that they can travel later. And it was our way of saying, we are with you, we are with the world. This is a global pandemic, but right now we're asking you to stay at home so that we're able to travel later. That's the first part. The second part is we are using this time to actually look internally within the organization to fix all those items that we know have been outstanding for a very long time, whether it's our visa processing ability to get that streamlined, or whether it's just about how we wanted for a long time to actually upgrade our technology or ICT play to actually do that now. You are not going to get another opportunity where the world stops and gives you time to fix your internal issues. And we are using that now to saying, well, in fact, we've termed it, called it gearing for the future. So essentially all the things we're doing now is about making sure that when the borders do open, we've got a streamlined, consistent, and we've reworked our brand, and we've made that shift from traditional marketing to digital marketing, and we can go, you know, quite succinctly, because when the tourism wheel starts again, you are going to have a very crowded room of all destinations screaming to all the tourists saying, visit my destination. So we've got to find that smart angle so that our voice, you know, rises above others so that we are able to land from that perspective. So a lot of the stuff now is about inwardly looking, really looking at our efficiencies, migrating fully into digital and technology so that when the things start again, we are up and ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. How about from the Indonesian government? Pak Sigit, do you want to comment on that?
Sorry, can you highlight a little bit the point?
Okay, so how do the government utilize time during this pandemic in order to promote or market the Indonesian destinations abroad? And then maybe another question, I think this is also related to that, is what if the reopening policy of tourism sector is not working the way it's expected to be?
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we after we had first cases in early March of COVID-19, and what we are doing is more for online, yeah, on digital activities, yeah. Our marketing communication division doing this since March, April, yeah. Especially in our own media, Indonesia.travel, we put a lot of information on destination, update destination, as well as other important information in those our website. And then since July, we have a collaboration with paid media like CNN, YouTube, and other media that we think that needed and to share the updated information of Indonesia destination. So during this pandemic, what we are doing, like in our division as well, we are doing like what we are doing right now, webinar. Yeah, we did already first series webinar, and then we also update our sellers with the updating origin as well last week. And also we are going also, if possible, we do like a virtual B2C and then also B2B. And like for example, we already registered for Jata online travel mart. Yeah, Jata is an event in Japan and supposed to be offline, but because of the pandemic, it will be in online. So we also register around 30 industry with in the event. This is part of the effort that we still try to reconnect the market, as well as we want to update also our seller about the origin as well. So all the effort that we are possible, we still been doing. This is about the second one. I'm sorry. The second one about. Can you?
What is going to be the government's next policy if the reopening policy is not working well?
Yeah, of course. That is why we've been very careful on this. Yeah, before we come to our final decision. Yeah, to do that we can go open the border and then also open the destination. That is why after we been with this situation, we have a regular meeting under the coordinating ministry. As we have also our colleague from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Immigration, and other related stakeholders working and meeting on this matter. And of course, if we talk about the decision, we need also consideration, recommendation from our national task force, as well as the authority will be on the regional government, the high level of our regional government. Of course, every policy, every decision will have a risk. That is why before we try to minimize the risk, we try to maximize the potential, the good side, the positive side, by very careful consideration before coming to decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Sigit. Now the last question will be, to the government of Indonesia and also Mr. Sisa later on. This question is forwarded by our participant here in the chat room. This participant asked whether there is going to be an agreement between the government of Indonesia and the government of South Africa in terms of developing a specific cooperation in tourism industry. Maybe Pak Consul General would like to comment on that.
Thank you, Ibu. I'm not going to touch on the agreement because it's Pak Salman, Pak Dubes Salman portfolio. But this is only my personal view. I think if I could give some suggestion for the Ministry of Tourism, maybe we could concentrate more on local tourism for the time being, because we could not have we cannot jeopardize the condition in Indonesia, because we are looking for more tourists coming, because I don't know if you have like strict protocols or policies like in Thailand. If you go to Thailand, you need to have like insurance policy in the amount of $10,000 US. So that kind of policy, I think, could at the same time filter more tourists coming up to Indonesia, because the focus of most governments now is on the health risk rather than on the revenue. That's my point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Pak Salman would like to comment on the last questions.
Thank you very much, Bu Valia, and thank you very much for the question. I think every avenue to promote the closer cooperation between South Africa and Indonesia is now also we are working on, including on the possibility to have an agreement on the tourism. I think it's very important, as I mentioned earlier, that the tourism sector is complement each other between Indonesia and South Africa, and then it's about relevance for us to explore the possibility to have the cooperation between our two countries. I will indeed very happy to meet with Brother Sisa to talk about that possibility and some practical way to improve our our tourism visit between Indonesia and South Africa. As I mentioned in my opening remark, that every year there are more and more tourists coming from South Africa, and I believe there are also potential of people coming to South Africa. We have to get the blessing of this situation while we are waiting for the situation much better earlier. Then we can do our work on promoting our cooperation. I will be very, it certainly will be very happy to work with the tour operators, and then also the South African Tourism Board on this issue. We are very optimistic, Brother Sisa, to work on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Salman. Now, to Mr. Sisa.
Thank you very much. Just on the first one, on the bilateral side, it's as they say, it's above my pay grade, and I think it's where the relations, the ambassadors will kind of need to sit down and kind of work a regime as to how to encourage not just tourism but business flow, trade flow between South Africa and Indonesia. As far as tourism is concerned, yes, in the foreseeable future, domestic tourism is what we all need to survive on. We'll have to look after ourselves in the short term with the view that we can expand out and more. What we've seen as well is that there's this phenomenon around travel corridors or air bubbles starting to come through, where countries are literally opening up avenues between each other so that trade can and tourism happens between the two. We are still seeing the results of that, and it's mostly happening within Europe. But the problems or the challenge with Europe is so made up of very small countries, right? That a 2-hour drive suddenly in another country. To give you a bit of context, the Kruger Park, which is a big zoo, if I can call it that, it's as big as Belgium. It's as big as Israel. So to give you a bit of a sense of the scale and size, I think that's kind of what we have to look at. So we now have to start to think in terms of who is going to be our travel mates? Who are we going to, as we gain confidence, we choose to start to travel between each other as well and start to have that. And I potentially see an opportunity, in my view, of those air bubbles and air corridors that we could say, well, let's create one big bridge between South Africa and Indonesia and start to get that stimulating start to happen. It's my suggestion, but as I said, I think it'll have to be taken up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sisa. Thank you very much, Ambassador Salman, and all the panelists for giving us insightful comments regarding our topic today on how responding to COVID-19 pandemic for the tourism industry in the future. However, time is running out, so I have to conclude this webinar. So from this discussion, we'll state 3 conclusions. The first one is both countries' tourism industry is declining during the COVID-19 pandemic. So therefore, very early, we need to develop trust in handling the pandemic to build back post-pandemic tourism. The second one, now is the golden period of time to keep developing and promoting tourism, especially between South Africa and Indonesia. However, global tourism standard needs to be developed so both countries would have the same health standard, for example, in order to build trust between South Africa and Indonesia. The third one, it is very important to understand the need of customers in the new normal era. So tour operators, governments should propose suitable packages to be promoted. And then, for example, we also need to change the strategy of promoting the tourism industry in the future. For example, Mr. Sisa already said we need to have we need to be more digitalized in promoting our tourism industry in the future. So finally, I would also like to underline Salman's saying in the beginning of our program. In every crisis, there's opportunity. So hopefully, this webinar has successfully been an opportunity for us to give all the participants insightful informations and lesson learned that we can implement in the future for tourism industry, both in Indonesia and South Africa. So I am Zelina Daniel. I'm very happy to be the moderator for today's webinar. So hopefully everyone's going to be stay healthy and stay safe in the future. Thank you very much for your participation. Now I'm handing back to the MC.
Thank you, Valerina. Before we close the event, few announcements to be made. We have some questions regarding to our event today on our chat. First, those who are interested to have contact with the speaker and the presentations document, they might contact the Embassy of Pretoria with the email as follow. Michael Pasaribu, MICAELPASARIBU @indonesia-pretoria.org.za. So I'll repeat, Michael Pasaribu at indonesia-pretoria.org.za. The second announcement is the embassy will organize another webinar event. We do hope that everyone can participate in this event. So we will keep you updated for further information. We have all your database. Finally, I'm Abdul Ghafur. I would like to thank you to all participants, to all speakers, and to you, Valerina, as the moderator, for sharing such a wonderful thoughts of discussions. See you in our next event. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bu Valerina. Thank you very much for the panelists. And thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you, Pak Salman.
Thank you, Pak Dubes.
Thank you. Terima kasih Pak
Thank
Dubes.
you, Pak
Sampai
Sigit.
ketemu ya.
Thank you, Bu Valerina.
Sampai
Pak
ketemu
Irwan.
Pak. Baik.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Thank you,
Valerie,
Pak
thank
Irwan.
you.
Ya.
Terima kasih,
Thank
Pak.
you. Ya,
Pak
sampai ketemu.
Abdul, Pak
Angela.
Abdul, terima kasih.
See you.
Thank you, Miss Angela. Thank you, Mr. Sisa.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Ya.
you very much,
Thank you,
Angela.
everyone.
Terima kasih Mela. Terima kasih kawan-kawan saya semua yang sudah hadir. Terima kasih. Bye. Bye bye.
154 siang Pak Ria.
Ya.